I thought I'd revisit the Minolta 80-200mm F2.8. I've had some requests to show some sample images and some of my experiences using the lens in the real world. So what I thought I'd do is just make this quick video just to give you an idea of some of my shooting experience with this lens. Opinion is quite similar to what I did in the test. In other words, the optical performance is excellent in most regards. This is in very bright light with the band playing, so worst case scenario really. Can sometimes see some purple fringing. That tends to be more on the edges of the image. Also get some of that LOCA as well, which you can see in the out of focus areas. It's pretty common on a lot of lenses, but I thought I'd try and cover this in a bit more detail. Certainly noticeable with these drums with that purple fringing. Got some specular highlights which can also make things a bit worse, but it does clean up fairly easy in post-production. It's much less of a problem in terms of the middle of the image. I just thought I'd show you that. That's the worst sample I've seen of purple fringing with this lens. This is a longer shot that I took wide open, and we can see again the specular highlights in the background. It's not particularly bad here. I've certainly seen worse, but it's more distracting. With this couple in the foreground though, we do have a bit of fringing on there. I'm just showing you samples out of thousands of images really where I've taken where there's a handful of images where there have been a few problems to note. In most cases I've always been happy with the out of focus rendering on the lens. It's done a very smooth job. But here's an example again where we can see a bit of that LOCA in the background with the green fringing. And here's another one at 80mm just to give you an idea of the performance at the other end of the zoom. There's a bit on the top of the cars, but it's not as strong at the wider focal lengths. Once you have the lens stopped down a little bit, f4 or 5.6, then you'll start to see the LOCA becomes really a non-issue for many of these shots. I've also found, because I've been taking images with quite a bit of green in the background, it just isn't really a problem in terms of processing the photos. Certainly nothing to complain about with the resolution on the lens. It's always been a very solid performer. And of course at the longer end you do get a nice bit of separation between the foreground and background. It's not necessarily your best choice for a portrait lens really because of the weight and size. Some people would prefer to have something a bit lighter. But you can also use it in a low light scenario such as weddings and christenings, things like that. You will start to feel the weight if you're carrying this around for a few hours though. Even though there are certainly heavier lenses out there for this class of lens. With extended use I did find myself using a monopod from time to time. Not a problem for a few hours use, but if you're out all day, particularly with a heavier body, with a grip possibly, then you will start to feel the weight. And that's why some people might prefer to use an f4. It really depends on if you need that low light capability. Your autofocus is going to vary depending on the body, but I personally found it to be a very good performer, particularly on the A99. Although the focus points on that camera are quite limiting, it did a pretty decent job overall. I'll talk about adapting the lens a little bit later in the video. One image did stand out for being a bit strange in terms of the background rendering, and it was this particular one here. It was probably down to the distance between the subject and the wall, which has a sort of textured pattern on it. Only really a couple of images where I found the out of focus areas to be not quite as nice as I would like. I know some people are going to be adapting this lens, so just to give you a quick idea on that, the LAEA 4 and 5 are the adapters that you're looking for. The 4 has been discontinued for a few years now, but that will work with the older cameras, and the 5 is the better option. That will work with the newer cameras and it will give you the focus across the image. The adapters work well enough when I tried it, although they don't quite have the torque of the native A-mount bodies, possibly because they have a smaller focus motor. Another point to cover is that the black version is optically identical to the white one. It just doesn't have the high speed gearing. It's certainly not slow on the black version, but you will notice the speed difference. I just wanted to make that video just to give you some ideas of this lens because it is still quite a popular one, particularly in terms of the price. Apart from a bit of purple fringing and some LOCA, it's really a very solid lens overall. And if you don't mind adapting lenses and you're looking for a bargain, it really is worth considering if you're an E-mount user. Got any thoughts on this lens or any questions, do drop a comment down below. Always happy to hear from people. And I look forward to seeing you in the next few videos.